Hi everybody, this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another old Hollywood scandal video. And y'all, I kid you not, I'm so glad y'all here because I feel like this is like in the top 10, no lie. Because today we are going to talk about the very, very brazen, very scandalous Don King. Right after this disclaimer.
Everything in this video is alleged and is for entertainment purposes only. As you all know, I gather gossip and info from magazines, TVs, books, blogs, wherever I can find it. Also, please do your own research.
Donald King was born on August the 20th, 1931 in Cleveland, Ohio. His mother's name was Hattie King and his father's name was Clarence King. And Don had at least 5 siblings. Now, it seems like Don and his siblings had a pretty normal childhood. Their mother Hattie was loving and caring, and their father Clarence worked up to 7 days a week in a hot steel mill to provide for his family. But unfortunately, all of this provision ended up being the basis for one of the first downfalls that the family faced. And that is because on December 7th, 1941, a tub of hot molten steel poured all over Clarence. So from that day on, the King family were without their loving and supportive patriarch. And it was under these circumstances that a shadow side of the young Don King started to rise. Now, the story says that Hattie got about a $10,000 payout due to the death of her husband. But after moving her family into a middle-class neighborhood, there wasn't really much money left. So Don persuaded his mother to give him a little bit of the money that she had left, and he started what Hattie thought was a concession stand. But in reality, the concession stand was a front, and behind the scenes, Don and his brothers were running numbers. Now that Don decided that the streets was his choice, he started to surround himself with dangerous men, and he started to get his rep up. And by 1951, he was running an undercover bookkeeping operation. And this is when Don King first started to become what we call ruthless. He had the charisma, he had the smarts, he had the arrogance, and the anger. And when you placed a bet with him and you lost and you didn't pay what was owed, oh baby, Don King was on your behind. And when he finally caught you, allegedly it was straight up slap action. After he had slapped you up good enough, not only would he take the money that was owed from you, he would take all the money you had on you. So Don King quickly became one of the most feared, wealthiest bookie/numbers runner in Cleveland. And the reason he grew so fast in this criminal game is because Don was a pro. He knew up front it was better to be friends with the police. And so allegedly he made sure to pay the cops off. But even the cops knew that if there was ever a time that Don told them, hey, I ain't got the money right now, I'll get it to you next week, even they knew to just back off and wait till the next week. Because the way Don King's anger was set up, you just did not want to set him off. Allegedly, even the Italian mob found it better to be friends with Don King instead of an enemy. So during the 1950s, Don was steady building himself up, steady climbing the ladder, and by the 1960s, it's alleged he was making around $15,000 a day. He ended up opening up his own nightclub. He had acquired several gambling houses, you know what I'm saying? He had all of the nice flashy cars, all of the nice suits. But this kind of power that Don King had, as well as his hothead activities, made some people jealous and anxious, and allegedly Don King survived at least 2 assassination attempts. But when it came to people on the other end of his gun, the fates did not give them the same grace. And from this point, honey, the video is about to evolve into a heap of mess, because Don King, the porcupine skippy-headed dream, was a whirlwind of nothing but the scandal, child. The scandal. So let's get to it. So to start the scandals off, we have to go back to the year 1954, because it was around this time that Don King had added several gambling houses to his bookkeeping business. And on December the 2nd, 1954, he just so happened to be in one of those gambling houses when 3 men came in trying to rob the place. But child, they could barely get a shot off before Don was airing it out. So a couple of the men tried to shoot back, but one of them just split the scene. He didn't make it about 2 steps before he ended up deceased on the floor. This man's name was Hillary Brown. Now, Don King did go to jail for this, but it ended up being ruled as self-defense, so he got out. it wouldn't be long before the excuse of self-defense wouldn't be needed for Don King to strike. Rumor has it on the night of April 20th, 1966, Don pulled up in his new Cadillac convertible to a bar called the Tap Room. He walked into the tap room looking like money, but then he spotted somebody else who looked like money. His money. And this guy's name was Sam Garrett. And per the story, Sam Garrett was an ex-friend / employee of Don's. But a few months back, he placed a bet with Don King and he lost the bet. But instead of paying, he cut off all contact with Don King and started dodging him. Well, tonight was the night, baby, because allegedly Don walked up to Sam and immediately started screaming in Sam's face, "Hey, say, man, where my money at, Jack? I said, where my money, you jive mother sucker?" Child, say Sam Garrett, who was actually a very sickly man. He suffered from tuberculosis and also allegedly he had recently had a kidney removed, just kind of was cowering, but he was trying to tell Don King, I don't got it, but I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay you. Baby said the slap hand came quick. Matter of fact, he bust Sam upside his head so bad that allegedly soon Sam was on the ground trying to crawl out of the door. When they got outside, this is when the kicking started. And it was at this point that the alleged 15 to 20 people that were surrounding them watching the fight started to get worried and allegedly started to kind of shout out, "That's enough, Don, leave him alone." But the way the rumors say that Don King's anger was set up, once he got to that level, there was no calming him down. Soon the cops pulled up and sent Sam Garrett to the hospital where he was immediately put into surgery and then he fell into a coma, dying a few days later. Now Don King did go to prison over this, but he only served around 3 to 4 years because allegedly all of the witnesses either changed their story or they straight up disappeared. So anyway, to move on with the story, like I said, he only served 3 to 4 years. And of course, a lot of people was hoping that Don King would learn a lesson while he was in prison. And he learned a lesson, but the lesson didn't benefit them. Don King was in prison gaining knowledge, real knowledge. He was reading books by Frederick Douglass, Shakespeare, Friedrich Nietzsche, which is one of my favorites on occult wisdom, Thomas Aquinas, another occult master, Voltaire, Tolstoy. And when you read and learn about that manipulation of emotions and energy, oh baby, it makes you the man with the plan. But you have a choice. You can either use your knowledge for good or you can use it for bad. Which one do you think Don King allegedly used his for? Let's just get into the tales of Don King regarding boxing. Now, rumor has it, after Don King got out of prison in the year 1971, his friend of some years, singer Lloyd Price, introduced him to boxer Muhammad Ali, telling Don that he feels like Don possesses the attitude and the personality to do something big in boxing. And Don apparently felt the exact same way because as soon as he met Muhammad Ali, he just dove right in. And one of his ideas was to convince Muhammad Ali to do a boxing showcase to save a black hospital in Cleveland that was going through a financial crisis. Don told Ali that with his help and a few other boxers, as well as some black celebrity singers, he felt like they could do a sort of charity, sell tickets to this show and everybody from around the area would obviously come and see it and they would give that money to the hospital. And it was during the setup of this event that Don King had to feel that he had truly found his way, his genius. Because baby, the promotion and stuff he did was immaculate. He immediately set in on all the black communities in town, baby. All of the black churches, black restaurants, black anything they had, Don King was there telling these people, can you believe it? Brothers and sisters, I tell you one thing. One thing that these white folks and this government stuff gonna do is withhold funds and money and help from the black people. The only black hospital in Cleveland in a threat of getting shut down. So I want y'all to buy these tickets and come on out. Come on out to this charity event. Come on. If you are a black brother or sister, bring your tail out there. The message was so good. The event was an absolute success. So much so that they allegedly raised between $50,000 and $70,000. Well, you know what happened after the money was raised and the event was over? Don King gave Muhammad Ali his $10,000, but when those other boxers came up ready to be paid their fee, which was only probably about $1,500, $1,000. Baby, Don King told these folks to go themselves. And it say that man didn't pay no doggone body. Allegedly, he didn't even want to pay the hospital. In the end, though, I guess he decided that was just too brazen, so he gave the hospital around $15,000. And baby allegedly walked away with at least a cool $20,000 to $25,000 in his pocket. In the end, Don King waved goodbye, and everybody else waved goodbye to that hospital because it didn't last too much longer after that. And see, this is where Don King's knowledge and his Machiavellian moves come into play. Because notice, he might have done those other boxers wrong, but he didn't do Ali wrong. He knew not to cross that bridge until he had gotten everything he wanted. And so, because he was building this trust, he got Muhammad Ali to officially sign him on as his promoter. This is all Don King needed, because as soon as the other boxers found out that the biggest and best boxer was with Don King and now signed with Don King, shoot, they wanted to have some dealings and sign with Don King too. And one of the first boxers that signed and was allegedly ripped off was boxer Ernie Shavers. Rumor has it that Ernie Shavers actually already had a manager, but Don had spotted him and saw how good he was. Now, listen, I'm not trying to disrespect you, but shoot, boy, you know what they call folks like you, don't you? Somebody who sit up here and see an all-black team doing big things, but would rather be with the other race. Especially when that black group can guarantee you $70,000 for your next fight. So, with all of this coercion and that amount of money, Ernie Shavers was sold. And he left his team and signed on with Don King. And regarding that fight Don King was talking about, allegedly Ernie Shavers was knocked out in the ring and then knocked out with the ka-ching. Child of folks say Don King ain't paid that boy a dime. Pocketed the alleged $70,000 and any other money that was made from the fight. Then the folks say when Ernie tried to fight back, he almost had a heart attack because allegedly on that contract in the fine print, there was a stipulation that if Don King cuts off contact with Ernie Shavers for any reason at all, that Ernie was required not to contact Don King anymore. And this clause was absolutely ridiculous, but apparently it held some weight because allegedly when Ernie Shavers took Don King to court, Don King was only ordered to pay $3,500 out of that so-called $70,000. But honey, if you think that's something, you ain't heard nothing yet. As a matter of fact, y'all should have been there to see how Don King allegedly behaved at the fight between Joe Frazier and George Foreman. Now the story says that at the time, Don King had his eye on both Joe Frazier and George Foreman because allegedly neither one of the fighters really had managers for real or something like that. They were kind of almost like free agents almost. Well, allegedly in the weeks leading up to this fight, Don King was making appearances at both of these boxers' training camps, hollering from the ringside, you look good, boy. Ooh, boy, I love the way you punching that punching bag. Well, although he was rubbing up to both boxers, his main focus was on Joe Frazier. That's who he really wanted to get in cahoots with because Joe Frazier at the time was the current heavyweight champion. And he succeeded in getting close with Joe Frazier, so much so that when it came time for the fight, Don King was allowed to ride in Joe Frazier's entourage motorcade on the way to the fight. And so when they get to the fight in the dressing room, Don King is rubbing shoulders with Frazier. He's all in his ear. Man, Frazier, I am telling you, that boy George Foreman don't know what you got for him. Man, I'm telling you, tonight is gonna treat you right. Well, when the fight got started, that right was nowhere in sight. Child, them folks say that George Foreman was lifting Joe Frazier off the canvas with every punch he threw. And the folks say that every time Joe Frazier was hit, Don King, who was outside standing around the ring, would slowly start to scoot over to George Foreman's corner. Matter of fact, he scooted so much over to George Foreman's corner that by the time the fight was over and George Foreman was declared the winner and the new heavyweight champion, Don King was climbing into the ring with his entourage and slapping hands and hugging everybody. Also, he was allegedly pushing entourage members out of the way so he could be right up there with George Foreman. Said as soon as he got next to George Foreman, he was like, I knew it. I told you. Didn't I told you that Frazier wasn't going to be nothing for you? And then when the cameras or the news came to interview George Foreman while he was still in the ring celebrating, baby, Don King was beside George Foreman, telling me, yeah, y'all interviewing the champ now. This my man, George is mine. And I mean, this is surreal, especially for the people who are witnessing this. This is crazy. We are talking about a man who rode in with Joe Frazier's entourage. Rode in, was on his corner and everything, slowly moving his way to the other side with George Foreman, and now was in the ring talking about some, I supported you, champion, you my man, and all this kind of stuff. He was so brazen. He didn't mind doing this kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, when one of the reporters questioned him about his behavior that night, baby, the folks say Don King told him, well, shoot, ain't nothing else to be said. I walked in with a champ, and I left out with a new champ. That's what winners do. And apparently that is what winners do. Because soon after this, George Foreman actually signed Don King on to be his promoter. And this right here set the moment in motion for Don King to do his pinnacle of magic. Like, this is him working the pot, baby. Because he signed George Foreman and promptly convinced George Foreman to fight Muhammad Ali, which was another one of his fighters. Two opponents that were both signed to him to fight a heavyweight champion. Baby, you talking about money? I mean money. And he didn't scam the boxers this time, but there were several other people involved in this event that Don King allegedly did scam. And one of those people was his close friend, singer Lloyd Price. Rumor has it that Lloyd Price was instrumental in getting the entertainment and everything together for the Rumble in the Jungle. And Lloyd Price helped out by performing himself. And for all of this work and help, Lloyd Price was allegedly supposed to be paid somewhere in the area of $250,000. Well, baby, when the smoke cleared, all of the other singers and performers that Lloyd had helped get over here, allegedly they got their money. But when Lloyd had his hand out for his money, his claim was denied. Because at the bottom of the contract that he had signed, he was only guaranteed payment if the fight took place on the event date that was listed on the contract. And as it turns out, the fight was not held on the initial date it was planned. And so because of that, Lloyd Price allegedly didn't receive any money. So to move on, as we know, Muhammad Ali beat George Foreman during the Rumble in the Jungle. And now it was time to face new contenders. So gossip claims that in the year 1978, there was a new contender ready to try to take it. His name was Leon Spinks. And I know that a lot of you guys who watched my Leon Spinks video is probably like, well, shoot, if anything bad happened to him, he deserved it because he was awful. I know y'all feel like that because Leon Spinks is definitely a top 10 video, really baby top 5 video. So I know y'all probably don't have much sympathy, but just listen at this. So Leon is the contender. He and Muhammad Ali fight in 1978 and Leon Spinks wins. But this win was very emotional for Leon Spinks because he loved Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was his favorite boxer. He had grown up wanting to be like Muhammad Ali. Well, allegedly, as soon as Don King knew that Leon Spinks had a soft spot in his heart for Muhammad Ali, Don King decided to take advantage of it because Leon Spinks did not belong to Don King. His promoter was a man named Bob Arum. So Don King was furious about the fact that he would not be able to promote the next heavyweight championship because his fighter, Ali, had lost the belt. And so now it was Leon Spinks and Leon Spinks' promoter. You know, they were going to get all of that money. They were going to get everything, all the perks that come along with being the fighter and the promoter of the heavyweight champion title fight. And then what made Don King even more enraged is the fact that Leon Spinks was a young, in shape, great boxer. So he probably was going to hold that title for a long time, which meant, once again, that Don King was going to miss out on a lot of money. So allegedly, Don King, or one of his minions, started planting seeds in Leon Spinks' ear that, you know, man, it ain't right that you beat that old man like that, man. You need to give Ali another chance for the belt. You know, just give him a chance for the belt. He needed. Pulling at Leon Spinks' heartstrings and ultimately convincing him to go forward and trying to push for another fight with Ali. And Leon Spinks is not thinking of any kind of underhanded plot, and he's definitely not thinking or worried about Ali really getting the title back because he's much younger and stronger than Muhammad Ali. So in his mind, he's just, doing it to honor Muhammad Ali. But the folks say that Leon Spinks' team felt like something was fishy behind this. They'd had some experience with Don King and the way he did things, and they just felt like this just don't feel right. So they were telling Leon, listen, I don't think you need to fight Ali again. Man, it's okay. See, y'all being too hardcore. Y'all really worried about that old man getting his belt back. It's just to show my appreciation for him. That's it. But Leon Spinks really should have been listening to his team. Because see, in boxing, if you are the heavyweight champion, your next opponent for the title fight is supposed to be the second contender. It is supposed to be a boxer that's on your skill level. Therefore, it would make the fight fair. So with Leon Spinks begging and telling everybody he wanted to fight Muhammad Ali and trying to sign that deal, going by the rules of boxing, it looks like he was trying to dodge a real contender and basically fight Muhammad Ali because Muhammad Ali was weak and not doing well, so he could retain the title by illegal means, pretty much. And that is what Don King was counting on when he or somebody in his camp first planted the seed in Leon Spinks' ear for Leon to request another fight with Muhammad Ali. And so Leon Spinks and Muhammad Ali signed the paperwork for a rematch. So Don King went to the board of the boxers, or the boxing government, whatever you want to call it. He went to the board and he made a complaint against Leon Spinks. And he told them that in the boxing rule book on number so and 7, the heavyweight champion of the world should only be trying to fight a contender with the same skill level. He shouldn't be trying to fight somebody who ain't got his same skill level. He's cheating. He's trying to hold on to that belt. And the World Boxing Council government thing agreed. And they stripped Leon Spinks of his heavyweight title with the World Boxing Council, and they awarded it to the contender he was supposed to fight, which was a man by the name of Ken Norton, which was one of Don King's fighters. But check me out though, we still ain't finished yet. Listen, the man is a genius. So the World Boxing Council belt is the most prestigious. That's top of the line, okay? So Leon Spinks has lost that. But because he signed papers and agreed to fight Muhammad Ali, the boxing organization lets him retain his lesser belt, which is the belt for the World Boxing Association. And so now Leon Spinks, he's depressed, he's down and out, he is drinking and doing drugs too, as you would know if you watched his video. But he's doing all of this, and he steps in the ring with Muhammad Ali for this rematch that pretty much has cost him everything. And he ends up losing. So he loses the lesser belt as well. And he lost it to who? Another one of Don King's boxers. And that whole story about Don King setting this in motion was alleged. It's all alleged. But let me just say this to you. This is top of the line manipulating energy and emotions right here. Don King has crowned himself a king. He found out Leon Spinks had an emotional attachment to Muhammad Ali out of love, and he manipulated it to his favor, to his gain. And it was definitely to his favor, honey, because the next title fight was between Ken Norton, his fighter who had taken the belt from Leon Spinks, and boxer Larry Holmes, who was another fighter who belonged to Don King. And so once again, Don King had maneuvered himself back into the position where he had two boxers that he promoted fighting for the heavyweight title, meaning once again, all that big behind money was coming to him. And once again, I do mean him, because Larry Holmes won that fight with Ken Norton, and allegedly he was supposed to be paid $500,000. Well, Larry only walked away with $150,000 because allegedly there were hidden management fees that were never explained to him, and Don allegedly took that money. And if I'm not mistaken, after this Larry Holmes and Ken Norton fight, pretty much like the next 3 or 4 championship fights, it was where Don King owned both fighters. As a matter of fact, Don King had amassed so much power in the boxing world that in order for a fighter to get a chance to fight at the heavyweight title, they had to sign on with Don King's promotion business first. If the boxer had another promoter or another manager, Don King would tell him, I don't care how good you are, you ain't getting no shot at the title fight unless you sign on with me. And this type of power and behavior might have made Don King feel invincible. But because of this policy, pretty soon he was about to sign on a boxer that was going to show him just how not invincible he was. This fighter's name was Mike Tyson. So the folks say that Mike Tyson signed on with Don King around the year 1988. Everything was fine. Mike Tyson was knocking out anything that moved. There was money going around everywhere. Also, allegedly, Mike Tyson had bought into Don King's little setup speech that he always gave. You know, hey, we black, you know, we brothers. Well, actually, to Mike Tyson, I think it was more of, you like a son to me. So when the year 1996 came around and gossip claims Mike Tyson's glory started to fade, he found out he was around $60 million in debt. You know, he realized, hey, my money is funny. What's going on? Well, Mike Tyson started thinking hard, honey.
Let's see, did I spend some money here? Well, you know, I bought that property. Man, I don't know. I just don't know.
And he didn't know. So allegedly he hired all type of accountants and all this kind of stuff. They went through his records and they found out that Don King had not been paying Mike Tyson the purse amount, you know, the contractual amount he was supposed to be paying him. So immediately Mike Tyson got in touch with Don King and he asked him,
my accountant said, you ain't been paying me all my money, so where's my money, Don?
And Don allegedly is trying to worm his way out of it. You know, he's saying, you know, Mike, we had hotel fees, car rentals, my fee, just all kind of expenses. Baby said Mike Tyson was like,
no, don't talk to me about none of that, man. Don't talk to me about none of that. I don't care about none of that. The money's supposed to match the paper I signed the contract, Don, the contract.
Well, they didn't come to an agreement. Don King wasn't admitting any wrongdoing. And so Mike Tyson got the lawyers on him. You know, they filed a suit for the amount of $100 million. And of course, Don King, after seeing this suit or hearing about it, got his best lawyers on it. And when you got the best lawyers, they know how to get the case caught up in litigation. You know, they need a hold to get all of Don's records together. They need a hold to talk to this person and that person. Pretty much they can keep the case going for years. But as the years are passing by, Mike Tyson is getting broker and broker. So he's becoming angrier and angrier. And so after a while, Mike Tyson is kind of demanding to his lawyers, you know, you guys need to push me, need to get this over. I need the money, man. I thought we were supposed to file the lawsuit and get the money. What's the holdup? And his lawyers, of course, are telling him that, you know, it's not really in our court. We're waiting on Don's lawyers. And so Mike Tyson starts to make the connection. He feels like, okay, the case is being held up because Don's lawyers won't agree to make the payment, and they won't agree because of Don himself. And so by the year 2003, Mike Tyson is absolutely boiling. And so he either reached out to Don King or Don King reached out to him. I'm not sure. But somehow on one night in 2003, Don King and Mike Tyson were riding in the back of Don King's limousine. And I don't know what Don King said, but he said something because Mike Tyson gave the man a karate kick to the back of the head. Child say by the time the kick was over, Don King's hair was laid down so flat it looked like a half bob. Perfectly fried, dyed, and laid to the side. But the folks say the new hairstyle didn't last longer than 2 seconds, honey. Because immediately after the kick, Mike Tyson started with the blows. Baby, these folks say that he was beating Don King up so bad that Don King had to open up the door and jump out of the car just to get some relief. And allegedly, when he was trying to get out, Don fell. Well, honey, the folks say that Mike was climbing out and getting ready to hit Don again when all he heard was click. So Mike stopped mid-swing, child. And Don took this moment of pause to get up and run away down the street. And while he was running, the limousine driver pulled off to catch up with him. And then Don King jumped back in the limousine and they pulled off, leaving Mike Tyson in the middle of the street. And sadly, one of Don King's bodyguards pulled up right after this. They had been trailing behind Mike Tyson and Don King, so they were just now pulling up. And when the bodyguard in the passenger seat got out asking Mike if he and Don had had a tire blowout or did something happen to the car, baby, Mike Tyson knocked the dude out cold and had him laying in the middle of the street. Now, after this dramatic whole episode, allegedly Don King finally got a little fear in his heart. So that very next year in 2004, he agreed to pay Mike Tyson $14 million. And this was a fraction of the $100 million, but child, I'm guessing with the way Don King operates that Mike Tyson, I guess, should have just been glad to get that. Now, I do have to say that even though Don King allegedly did a lot of these things that we would classify as evil, in a lot of ways, he didn't do anything more than what many of the other promoters at that time were doing. I guess it just hit so hard with Don King because it was like he was exploiting his own race. But essentially, it comes down to, would you rather be exploited by a black man or a man of a different race? What I do know is that Don King right now today is still kicking and rolling with the punches, honey. I haven't talked much about his personal life, but he was married to a lady by the name of Henrietta. She passed away in 2010. As a matter of fact, let me say this. I'm sorry, it ain't funny, but it kind of is. Allegedly, he started telling people, especially some investors he was working with on a project, that he was a changed man. You know what I'm saying? His wife dying led him to Christ. He was a Christian man. He believed in God, Jesus, all of that. He did not do none of those manipulation and stealing. He didn't do that no more. He was changed. Well, earlier this year, the same people he was making these promises and declarations to ended up suing Don King for fraud. And then it was alleged that somebody had walked into his office to talk to him just before Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. And Don King was on the phone cursing somebody out, telling them, "You promised to sign with me. You can't renege on nothing like that. That's some bullshit. And you a bullshit person." And so maybe God is still working on Don King. Maybe he hasn't made the complete change yet. But can somebody really change when they're already 93 years old? Well, Don King has turned the impossible to the possible before, so anything could happen. But anyway, guys, this is the end of the old Hollywood scandalous tale on Mr. Don King. Please tell me in the comments if you guys liked it. I loved it. You know, I love the real messy videos. Oh my gosh. So anyways, leave comments, and if you guys did like it, subscribe to this channel, and we'll be back with another video soon.